Okay. Okay, now first of all, I need to, I'm a little bit confused where I am, where I stopped at last session. I thought I'm in the middle of page 50 in Sadhana Path. Am I in the middle of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's explanation to the second verse? Anyone remembers? Or did I complete it? I thought I completed it. I'm supposed to move to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Anyway, I'm just going to assume that's what it is. I assume you can hear me. All right. Wait. First of all, ask.
Is it okay now?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Okay.
You are not able to share, is it earlier?
No, I just forgot where I'm supposed to start.
You are on the text 2. So you have to start with text 2.
Text 2, but I thought I completed Bhaktivinoda Thakur's.
Then complete. You said Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur commentary you did, and you gave some references from Canto 3. I'm not sure if it was completed.
Anyway, I'm going to continue with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's poetic paraphrase, versified paraphrase. I'll start with that. Okay.
What's that?
Okay. Okay. Upadeshamrita Bhasha, a paraphrase of Upadeshamrita Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. अत्यंत संग्रहे जार सदा चित्त धाय अत्याहारी भक्तिहीन सही संज्ञा पाए. Okay, anyway, I'll just continue this. Too much of that person whose mind constantly runs towards excessive accumulation, he gets the name Atyahari, a person who collects too much, and he is devoid of bhakti. Prakrita vasturashe bhonge jar mon prayasi tahar naam bhaktihin jan. That person whose mind constantly hankers for material objects, material things, or anything material, it is called a prayasi, a person who is always endeavoring, and he is also devoid of bhakti. Krishna katha chhadi jihva an katha kohe prajalpi tahar naam vritha vakya bohe. The person whose tongue gives up Krishna katha and talks about other topics assumes the name Prajalpi, a person who engages in Prajalpa, and he simply speaks in vain, uselessly. Bhajanete udasin, kormete praveen, Bhakwarambhi se niyam agrahiyati deen. The person who is indifferent in bhajana kriya, but who is very expert in carrying out his material duties, karma. He is a Bahwarambhi. He is a person who carries out various projects or various ventures. He is involved in various ventures. And he is described as a Niyamagrahi, a person who is engaged in Niyamagraha. Pati Deen, he is very fallen. He is in a very wretched state. Bahwarambhi is an expression. Let's see what is it comes in Bhagavad Gita. Bahwarambhi. There's another expression. But that is an expression. Bahwarambha. Bahwarambha means too much of ventures, venturing into too many things. Krishna Bhakta Sangavena Anna Sangye Rata. Janasangi Ku Vishaya Bilasadi Rata. Janasangi is one who is absorbed in the association of those other than Krishna Bhaktas. And he is determined to sport in sinful sense enjoyment. In evil sense enjoyment. Nanasthane Brahme Jai Nija Swartha Tare Laulyavar Bhaktihin Sangya De Nare. That person who selfishly wanders to many places, he is greedy. He is known as a greedy person. Such a man is devoid of bhakti. These 6 persons are never ever eligible to engage in bhakti. Bhaktihin lakshya vrashta vishayi samsari. They are devoid of bhakti. They have deviated from their goals. They are sense enjoyers and they are stuck in samsara, material existence. Jnani ganer atirikta jnana sangraha. Karma follow adi diger, follow adi diger, follow sanchoy. Anyabhilashi diger atishoy sangrahoy agyaha. Accumulation of excessive knowledge by the Jnanis, accumulation of the result of karma by the karmis, and excessive accumulation by the anyabhilashis, by adharmic people. This is what is referred to by atyaha, over collection. Jnani ganer jnanabhyas vidhi, karmer tapasya brata adi, anyabhilashye stri putra darvinadi vishaye prayas. Prayas or endeavor, unnecessary endeavor, refers to the endeavor to follow the rules and regulations of the Jnana system as practiced by the Jnanis, to carry out the various forms of austerity and vows and so on as practiced by the Karmis, and to engage in various endeavors towards women, sons, wealth and so on, by anyabhilashis, by sinful people, by adharmic people. This is what is referred to as prayasa. Gyani ganer shastriya vitanda janna panditya. Dharmi ganer anushthan priyata. Anyabhilashir indriya priti mulak vakya bhavi prajalpa. Prajalpa refers to the scholarship. The scholarship which is scholarship of Shastras by the Gyanis, with the desire to refute opposing ideologies. That is one form of prajalpa. The love for various ceremonial functions by the karmis, which is exhibited in words, that is also another form of prajalpa. And words founded on sense enjoyment by the anyabhilashis or adharmic persons, that is also prajalpa. Mukti praptir uddeshe gyan shastre niyamavali grahane agraha. Ihamutra sukhabhog praptir uddeshe prayog shastre niyamer prati asam. तात्कालिक सुख प्राप्तिर उद्देश्य यूटिलिटेरियन दिगेर न्याय निज अवस्थोचित विधिर प्रति मर्यादा स्थापने नियमाग्रह. Okay, niyamagraha. Taking the first meaning of niyamagraha, being overly attached to rules and regulations, it particularly means to have an eagerness to follow the rules and regulations of the Jnana Shastras in order to attain liberation, or to attain, to have attraction to scriptural regulations, practical scriptural regulations with which one can attain happiness in this life and happiness in the next life. Material happiness in this life, material happiness in that life. And eagerness for eagerness to always follow the code of conduct and the various regulations appropriate to one's status, like the utilitarians, in order to attain immediate happiness. This is also niyamagraha. So the third group refers to simply anyabhilashis, adharmic people. They just want to attain happiness right now. Right now means in this life. In this life, that too as quickly as possible. So these are three forms of niyama agraha. To be very eager to follow rules and regulations outside of bhakti. That means if I'm very eager to follow rules and regulations of the anyabhilashis, or the rules and regulations of the karmis, or the rules and regulations of the jnanis, that is niyama agraha. Bhakti labhe niyamadite udasin. Or you can also split niyama agraha into niyama agraha. To not be eager to follow the rules and regulations. That means to be indifferent to the rules and regulations to attain bhakti. Yathechachar ke anurag marg mulya apnar garhan yogya avastha ke bahumanan karen. A person who is like this, he thinks great about his own status when he whimsically engages in sinful activities, and he considers himself to be on the path of spontaneous love for Krishna. Shruti Smriti Purana Adi Pancharatra Vidhyam Vina Aikantiki Hare Bhaktir Utpata Yaiva Kevalam Utpata Yaiva Kalpate. The Hari Bhakti Vilas. So in Hari Bhakti Vilas, this verse has been quoted that if you engage in one pointed Hari Bhakti without following the rules and regulations of Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Pancharatra, and so on, then it simply leads to chaos in society. Kalyana Kalpataru. Then he quotes from Kalyana Kalpataru of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Mon Tore Boli Ei Bharata. Wait. Let me press it down. Sorry. Okay. Mon Tore Boli Ei Bharata. अपक्व होए से हाय वंचित वंचक पाय बिकाएले निज स्वतंत्रता. My dear mind, I have this message to convey to you. Alas, how remorseful it is that you have sold your own independence due to being cheated by deviant rascals who turn you away from the process of spiritual life given to you by your Guru. At your tender, immature stage of spiritual realization, you foolishly listen to such cheaters only to be misled from the true path. Then comes Sampradaya Dosha Bhukti Jani Tumi Atmashuddhi Kurivare Hoile Sabodhan Nani Le Tilakmala Tyaji Le Diksha Jwala Nije Koile Novin Vidhan. You now have a new talent for finding fault with the society of devotees and the whole disciplic succession as well. Constantly remembering the supposed faults that you find, you very carefully try to purify yourself. Wearing neck beads no longer, marking your forehead with tilak no longer. You have now made up your own new set of rules and regulations. You have rejected your initiating spiritual master because you now experience his influence as a burning sensation in your heart. Purvamatit Talidiya Nijamoto Prachariya Nije Ava Tarabuddhi Dhori Bratachar Namanile Purvamatan Jole Dile Mahajane Brahmadrishti Kori. My dear mind, you artificially agree with your former philosophy, but you really don't accept or follow it. Instead, you broadcast your own whimsical concoctions just to establish yourself as some sort of incarnation. Trying to find mistakes in the devotion process established by the great devotees, you completely toss out your previous spiritual path as rubbish, neglecting all your former vows and practices. Fota Diksha Mala Dhari Dhurta Kore Sucha Turi Tai Tahe Tomar Dira Mahajan Pothe Dosh Dekia Tomar Rosh You have become most displeased because you think that tilak, initiation, and neck beads are accepted only by sly, cunning cheaters. You become angry when you find some insignificant fault with the process of the great souls, and thus you reject all attachment to the path. Ekhon dekho bhai, swarnachari loile chai. Ihokal porakal jai. Kapot bolilo sobe, bhakati bab pele kobe, dehante bad ki hobe upay. Now just see here, dear brother, your present life as well as your future life are at stake. You have renounced pure gold simply to take some worthless ashes. You say that everyone else is bogus, but if you don't accept the true process of devotion service, then how will you be delivered at the time of your death? Next, another song of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is quoting. Ki ar bolibo tore mon, mukhe bolo premo prem, mostota tyajiya hem. Shunya granthi anchale bandhan. What more shall I say to you, my dear mind? You're expert at giving lip service by always speaking of love for Krishna, love for Krishna. But the real fact is that you're renouncing gold simply to tie an empty knot in the border of your cloth. You lose the substance to grasp at something false. Abhyasiya Ashprapat, Lamfa Jump Akasmat, Murcha Pray Thakaho, Odiya. এই লোক বঞ্চিতের রঙ্গ প্রচারিয়া অসৎসঙ্গ কামিনী কাঞ্চন লোক দিয়া. Well practiced in artificially shedding tears and suddenly leaping here and there, you like to fall on the ground and pretend to be unconscious in ecstatic love for Krishna. You perform such mischievous pranks only to cheat the innocent public and thereby sensationalize your own wicked association. This is all just nonsense, just so you can attract women and money. Premer sadhan bhakti tahate noigo anurakti shuddha prem kemone milibe dosh apar asteji nirantar naam bhaji kripa hoile supreme paibe. The means for attaining pure ecstatic love for Godhead is called devotional service. If you have no inclination or attachment to this pure devotional process, then how do you expect to actually come into contact with pure love for Krishna, carefully avoiding the 10 offenses in chanting the holy name? Just worship that name incessantly, and you will attain the highest quality of pure ecstatic love when the mercy comes to you. Namanile subhajan sadhu sange sankirtan না করিলে নির্জনে স্মরণ না উঠিয়া বৃক্ষ করি টানাটানি ফল ধরি দুষ্ট ফল করিলে অর্জন. But your idea, dear mind, is to neglect the best and most auspicious process of worshipping Krishna, namely the congregation chanting of his holy names in the association of purified devotees. And you don't even bother to try to remember him in a lonely place. Your attitude is just like trying to pick fruits forcibly from a tree by jumping at them from the ground. Instead of climbing the tree to properly pick the sweet ripened fruits from the top of the tree, you will simply get the sour, unripe fruits by such a jumping process. Akaito Krishna Prem, Jainasu Bimal Hem, Ei Fal Niloke Dublo. হইতবে বঞ্চনা মাত্র ও আগে যোগ্য পাত্র তবে প্রেম হইবে সুলভ. Ecstatic love for Krishna, which is completely freed from the propensity to cheat, is just like spotlessly pure gold, and the fruits of such pure love are rarely found in this world. However, my dear mind, your cheating process of imitation so-called love is simply a fraud. To get the real pure love, you have to first make yourself a fit candidate, and then true transcendental love will become very easily obtainable for you. Kame preme dekho bhai lakshanete bhed nai tobu kam prem nahi hoy. Tumi to korile kam mithya tahate prem nam aropile. My dear brother, just compare the characteristics of your bogus lust with the characteristics of true love for Krishna. There is practically no difference at all in their external symptoms. Nevertheless, this artificial lust is definitely not true love at all. You are completely covered with lust, but you lie and falsely call it prema. Therefore, how will you be blessed with real spiritual well-being? কেন মন কামেরে নাচাও প্রেম প্রায় চর্ম মাংসময় কাম জড় সুখ অবিরাম জড় বিষয় এতে সদা ধায়. Tell me why, my dear mind, Why are you forced to dance by lust? And why do you think that such dancing is Krishna conscious? Your lust is simply abounding in skin and meat, and you are addicted to non-stop material sense gratification. Thus, you spend your time and running here and there, chasing after worldly sense objects. Jive Swarupa Dharma Chitswarupe Prema Marma Tahar Vishaya Matra Hari Kama Aba Rane Hai Prema Eve Su Supt Pray Preme Jagao Kam Dur Hori. The soul's original eternal nature is pure love within the innermost core of its spiritually conscious form, and the sole object of that pure love is Lord Hari. Alas, how lamentable it is that this inherent ecstatic love is now lying in a dormant state due to the artificial covering of this temporary lust. My dear man, my dear mind, banishing this lust to a distant place, just rouse and reawaken your sleeping prema. श्रद्धा होते साधु संगे भजनेर क्रियारंगे निष्ठा रुचि आसक्ति उदय आसक्ति होते भाव ताहे प्रेम प्रादुर्भाव हे क्रमे प्रेम उपजय. Only in the following sequence does pure love for Krishna awaken. First, one develops Shraddha in the process of Krishna consciousness. Then, due to that faith, one becomes enthusiastic for sadhu sangha. Then the performance of bhajana kriya in the company of the devotees, there awakens nishtha, then ruchi, then asakti. This attachment gives rise to bhava, from which prema manifests its reawakening. Only in this sequence does prema come into being. Ihate jaton jar, shei pai prem sah. क्रमत्यागे प्रेम नाही जागे এই ভ্রম সাধনে ভয় কেন করো দুরাশয় আমি প্রেম কবু নাহি লাগে. One who endeavors in this process gets the essence of pure ecstatic love for Krishna. One who neglects the proper order of this procedure does not experience the reawakening of true prema. My dear mind, why are you maintaining the wicked mentality of apprehension and fear of this method of devotion service? By cultivation of your lust in this mundane sphere, you will never be able to touch on genuine ecstatic love for Krishna. Nataka Hinoy Prai Sakapot Prem Bhai Tahe Matra Indriya Santosh इंद्रिय दोषण छाड़ सदागर परिहार छाड़ भाई अपराध दोष. So by your dramatic performance of dancing in lust, you think this is indicative of your prema, but it is actually a deceptive, feigned imitation of spiritual love. Thus your whole process is simply gross sense gratification. My dear brother, always refrain from such degraded, contemptible activities. Cast out this grave offense to the Lord. Nirvichesh Gyani ba Muktivadi Sangha, Holokami Parmi Sangha, Evam Ashu, Indriya Parayon, Laukik Sangai, Jana Sangha. Jana Sangha refers to association with those who promote liberation or those who cultivate impersonal knowledge. It also refers to the association of the karmis, those engaged in karma kanda, who have a desire for the results of karma. The result of karma is punya, pious credits. And the association of worldly people who are absorbed in rapid sense enjoyment. Harijan Sangha Labh Ghotile, Vishi Jana Sangha Apna Hoite Viturito Hoy. If one happens to attain the association of those who belong to Lord Hari, then by itself, association with sense enjoyers go far away. मुक्ति और भक्ति स्पृहा एवं लौकिक इंद्रिय सुख चेष्टा वृत्ति समूह ही लौल्य लौल्य or greed refers to the hankering for bhakti, material enjoyment, mukti, liberation, and the endeavor to attain ordinary, worldly, sensual happiness. So here also we see mukti is the goal of the jnanis. Bhakti in the sense of enjoying for several lifetimes by performing the austerity of a pious life in one life. That is found amongst the karmis, those who follow karma kanda restrictions. And then we find the anyavilashis, the adharmic persons. They endeavor to attain sensual happiness of this world. अत्याहार प्रयास प्रजल्प नियमाग्रह जनसंग लौल्य 6 प्रकार साधन द्वारा कृष्णानुगत्य प्रवृत्ति थकेना. Through these 6 endeavors, through these 6 processes, or rather pursuits, अत्याहार प्रयास प्रजल्प नियमाग्रह जनसंग लौल्य, there is no pravriti, there is no movement towards following Krishna's instructions. Maya Rajye Prabhu Hoibar Vasana Vritti Pai. And one develops one increases his propensities to become a lord in the kingdom of Maya. O Krishna Bhakti Sarvottama. And one even loses the capacity to understand that Krishna Bhakti is the greatest goal and the greatest means. Krishna Janna ei buli anushthit hoile. Bhakti vriddhi hoy. When these 6 are carried out in a manner that is favorable to Krishna, then one's bhakti increases. Natuva Krishnetar Vishaya Prakshipta Sohile Bhakti Marga Sohite Vichuti Bhate. If one falls into anything other than Krishna, then he will fall down from the pathway of bhakti. Okay, now I have to take up Bhakti Aloka. Okay, so that's Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. We'll look at Bhakti Aloka before we come to Prabhupada. All right. Yes. Illuminations on Bhakti was a collection of essays. There were 6 essays on Upadeshamrita text 2, the current verse of Nectar of Instruction, on the 6 faults that destroy Bhakti, and then later we'll come across an essay on the 6 good qualities that lead to the success of Bhakti. Bhaktivinoda Thakur takes up Atyahara. I will not read Bhaktivinoda's original Bengali unless the situation warrants it. So I'll just read the English translation of that and I'll explain. Atyahara, overeating or too much collecting. In his Sri Upadeshamrita, Srila Rupa Goswami has written the following verse. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janahangasya laulyamcha shadver bhaktir vinashyati. One's devotion service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities: atyahara, eating more than necessary, or collecting more funds than required; prayasa, over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain; prajalpa, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters; niyamangraha, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement; or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically; jana sangha, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness; and laulyam, being greedy for mundane achievements. It is most important to consider the deep meaning of this verse. For anyone who wants to engage in pure devotion service, it is especially necessary to follow the instructions of this verse. For one who neglects to follow these instructions, attaining devotion to Lord Hari is extremely rare. We are hereby elaborating the meaning of this verse for the benefit of those who have a strong desire to attain pure devotion service. In this verse, 6 impediments to devotion service are mentioned: atyahara, prayasa, prajalpa, niyamangraha, janasangha, and laulya. We will separately discuss each of these 6 items. In this small chapter, only the meaning of the word atyahara is being discussed. Many people may think that atyahara refers only to overeating, but this is not so. Now, in Sanskrit, ati means over. Ahara generally refers to eating. Ahara, nidra, bhaya, maithunam. Eating, sleeping, mating differently, mating, fearing. It is explained in the first verse of Upadeshamrita. Vacho vegam, manasah krodha vegam, jihva vegam, udaro pastha vegam. Etan vegan yovi shaheta dhiras sarvam api maprithivim sasishya. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. In this regard, the urge of the tongue is the desire to taste foodstuffs. The urge of the stomach is the desire to overeat. If we understand the word atyahara in the second verse as overeating, the fault of repetition occurs in this condensed collection of essential instructions. The point is this: redundancy is considered a fault in the Vedic system of knowledge. So if he has already said Jihva Veda, Udara Veda, if he has already indicated that the 6 urges are unfavorable for devotion service, why is he again talking about atyahara? If atyahara means overeating only, so we understand that atyahara does not refer to only overeating. It must be having some other meaning. Therefore, it is the duty of the learned readers to find other meanings for the word atyahara as used by the most grave Rupa Goswami. Although bhojana or eating is the primary meaning of the word ahara, in atyahara we have the word ahara. The word bhojana also means to enjoy the objects of the 5 senses. So in that case, atyahara will then turn out to mean to over-enjoy the objects of the 5 senses. Form by the eyes, sound by the ears, smell by the nose, taste by the tongue, feeling of heat and cold, soft and hard by the touch. In this way, the 5 senses enjoy. This type of material enjoyment is compulsory for an embodied soul. Without enjoying the sense objects, a living entity cannot survive. As soon as a living entity gives up sense enjoyment, he leaves his body. Therefore, giving up sense enjoyment is only a figment of the imagination. It can never be applied in practice. Lord Shri Krishna instructed Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, Nahi kashit kshanamapi yadutishtatya karma kret, karate hiya vashah karma, sarva prakriti jair gunai, karmendriyani samyabhya aste manasa smaran, indriyarthan moodhatma mithyacharas uchyate. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. One who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called the pretender. Since maintaining one's life is not possible without action, means without activity, one must work to maintain his life. So maintaining one's life requires physical endeavor, activity. If such activities are done in the mood of enjoyment, then one's qualification as a human is lost and he becomes like an animal. Therefore, if one can transform all his bodily activities into activities favorable for the devotional service of the Lord, then that is Bhakti Yoga. Again, the Lord says in the Gita, Natyashnatastu yogosti nachaikantam anashnataha nachati swapnashilasya jagrato naivacharjana yuktahara viharasya yuktacheshtasya karmasu yuktasupnavabodhasya bodhasya yogo bhavati dukkaha naiva kinchit karomi iti yukto manyet tattva vrit Pashyan Shrinvan Spashan Jikran Ashnan Gachan Swapan Shwasan Pralapan Visrajan Grihnan Unmishan Nimishan Napi Indriyadeshu Vartante iti Dharayam. There's no possibility of once becoming a yogi or Arjuna. If one eats too much, or eats too little, sleeps too much, or does not sleep enough, he who's tempered in his habits of eating, sleeping, working, and recreation can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. A person in the divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping, and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and he is aloof from them. Although these instructions are effective for jnanis, still their purport is favorable for devotional service. The concluding verse of Bhagavad Gita explains about Sharanagati, or full surrender. Keeping this in mind, one should renounce fruitive activities and philosophical speculation and accept sense objects as the Lord's mercy. This is known as pure devotional service. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami said in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Anasaktasya Vishaya Yatharhamupa Yunjataha Nirbandha Krishna Sambandha Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate Prapanchika Taya Buddhya Hari Sambandhi Vastunaha Mumukshubhi Parityago Vairagyam Phalgu Kathyate. When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is quietly situated above possessiveness. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete as renunciation. The purport of these two verses is repeated in Sri Upadeshamrita by the instruction to reject Atyahara. The purport is that if one accepts sense objects in the spirit of enjoyment, that is Atyahara. But if sense objects are accepted as a Lord's mercy and only as far as required and favorable for devotional service, then it is not Atyahara. If sense objects are honestly accepted as the Lord's mercy, then Yukta Vairagya is easily attained. So Yukta Vairagya happens to be the opposite of Atyahara. Sriman Mahaprabhu's order is to accept sense objects without attachment and chant Krishna's name. Don't endeavor for palatable foodstuffs and fine clothes. Accept the sanctified Bhagavad Prasad that is easily obtainable. This is the devotee's lifestyle. Whatever is required, take only that. Taking more or less will not yield auspicious results. If the practitioner takes or accumulates more than necessary, his spiritual life will be lost due to his being controlled by material mellows, rasa. If it does not properly accumulate, then the body, which is this means of worship, will not be protected. Shariram khalu dharma sadhanam. The purport of the instruction to tolerate the urges of the tongue and belly, mentioned in the first verse, is this. The materialist easily becomes greedy to enjoy the finest tastes, and being afflicted by hunger, he becomes extremely agitated and enthusiastic to eat the available foodstuffs. This is a material urge. Wherever this type of urge will arise, it should be considered, it should be controlled by the cultivation of devotional service. The injunction to reject Atyahara mentioned in the second verse is a constitutional rule for the practitioner. the injunction of the first verse is conditional and the injunction of the second is constitutional. Okay, that requires some explanation. The topic that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is taking up for discussion is why is it said that one should control the urge of the tongue and belly on one hand in text 1. And it is also said here, atyahara is a problem. Overeating is a problem. Why twice? You should remember that Upadeshamrita ultimately came to only 11 verses. And even then, there is this question that keeps coming up. That why the injunction is repeated. Tyahara is repeated in the second verse. The Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains. The first verse is conditional. The second is constitutional. In other words, if okay, normally I'm supposed to accept 6 activities and reject 6 activities. This is normal in my life. But occasionally, I may experience any one or more of the 6 problems referred to in the current text of Upadeshamrita, Atyahara, Prayasa, Vikalpa, Nimagra, Janasanga, and Laulya. Then what should I do? Or when it troubles me, then I should neglect it. That is the injunction of the first verse. So when the problem arises, you deal with it on a reactive basis. But then the rules given here are proactively meant to be applied all the time. There is one more thing to be said. All these instructions have 2 different types of applications for the householders and for the renunciates. Householders can collect in order to maintain their family members. They should earn their livelihood and save according to religious principles. With these savings, they should serve the Lord, the devotees, guests, family members, and themselves. This is straight from Dharma Shastra. If a householder collects more than his requirement, then this is an impediment in his devotional service and in his achieving the Lord's mercy. So the Lord's mercy has to be achieved. It cannot don't just expect it to fall from the sky. We need to achieve it. So saving too much and earning too much are both atyahara, there is no doubt. A renunciate will not collect at all. If he is not satisfied by the alms he obtains every day, then he is guilty of atyahara. After getting nice foodstuffs, if he eats more than he needs, then he is guilty of atyahara. Therefore, the householders and renunciates should consider these facts carefully. And after giving up atyahara, when they engage in devotional service, they will attain Krishna's mercy. So, atyahara is a problem by itself. It is a constant problem. Prayasa, over endeavoring. If prayasa is not given up, devotion will never arise. The word prayasa means endeavor, useless labor. Spiritual life is nothing other than pure devotion unto the Supreme Lord. Devotion cannot be defined by any symptoms other than full surrender and subordination unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Full surrender and subordination are the natural, eternal, constitutional duties of the living beings, living entities. Therefore, only devotional service is the natural propensity or inherent occupation. In one's inherent occupation, there is no need of prayasa. Still, in the living entity's conditioned state, there is need for a small amount of prayasa in order to cultivate devotional service. Except this little prayasa, all other kinds of prayasa are unfavorable for devotional service. Jnana prayasa, karma prayasa. In Jnana prayasa, the feeling of oneness or Kevaladvaita arises. This is also known as Sayujya, merging or Brahma Nirvana, absorption in the Supreme. Jnana Prayasa is hostile to spiritual life. This is explained in the Vedic literature. Mundaka Upanishad in the following 3 words. Nayamatma vachanena labhyo na metha sana bahunashvutena yam me vaishya vrinate tena labhyas tasyesha atma vivrinate tanum swam. The Supreme Lord is not obtained by expert explanations, by vast intelligence, or even by much hearing, study. He is obtained only by one whom he himself chooses. Such a person he manifests his own true form. Now one may ask the question that if this is really the case, then how come that we are engaged in these various activities also? We are engaged in hearing, we are engaged in so many activities. The idea is that we need to be filled with devotional service, and only then will the Supreme Lord manifest himself. If I do not engage in devotional service to Krishna, then no matter how much I study the scriptures or whatever, I will not be able to realize the nature of the Supreme Godhead. Therefore, devotion is the only way to attain the lotus feet of the Lord. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Brahma says to Lord Krishna, Jnane prayasa mudapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiya vartam sthane sthita shrutikatam tanuva manobhir ye praya sho jito jito yasitrai trilokyam. Lord Brahma said, Oh my dear, oh my Lord Krishna, a devotee who abandons the path of empiric philosophical speculation aimed at merging in the existence of the Supreme and engages himself in hearing your glories and activities from a bona fide sadhu or saint, and who lives an honest life in the occupational engagement of a social life, can conquer your sympathy and mercy even though you are ajitta or unconquerable. In order to further clarify prayasa, Lord Brahma says, Shreya Sritim Bhakti Mudasyate Vibho Klishyanti Ye Kevala Bodha Labdhe Tulya Maso Kleshala Eva Shishyate Nanyad Yatha Sthula Tushava Ghati Nam. My dear Lord, devotional service unto you is the only auspicious path. If one gives it up simply for speculative knowledge or the understanding that these living beings are spirit souls and the material world is false, he undergoes a great deal of trouble. He only gains troublesome and inauspicious activities. His endeavors are like beating a husk that is already devoid of rice. One's labor becomes fruitless. So this is a certain point that we take up very, very seriously in the Gaudiya Vaishnava life. The philosophy of monism does not originate in the absolute truth. It is only a demoniac provision. Glorification of the knowledge of one's relationship with the Lord is often heard. That knowledge is pure and spontaneous. Thus, there is no need of prayasa. In other words, you don't need to externally go for it, but it can internally come out. Knowledge given in the Chatushloki, the 4 main Bhagavatam verses, Canto 2, Chapter 9, is Achintya Bhedabheda. Inconceivably, simultaneously one and different. This knowledge is naturally dormant in the heart of the living entity. The Lord is like a spiritual sun, and the living entities are like molecular particles of the sun's rays. So it's bound. The living entity cannot remain in its constitutional form without being subordinate to the Lord. Therefore, Servitorship of the Lord is his constitutional duty. So he is bound to Krishna's lotus feet by design, but at no particular point in time where the living entity is created. So it is the eternal will of the Supreme Lord that we are bound to him and only him. Cultivation of this constitutional duty is the nature of the living entity. This is the spontaneous, devoid of prayasa dharma or duty of the living entity. Although in the conditioned state, this dharma is almost dormant and is awakened by sadhana or spiritual practice, still the prayasa found in the devotional processes is not like that found on the paths of karma and jnana. If one takes shelter of the holy name with some respect, then within a short time the obstacles due to ignorance are removed and one's constitutional happiness is reawakened. But if one goes to a place to engage in jnana prayasa, then he has to suffer more. And if jnana prayasa is renounced in the association of devotees, then that is a devotional endeavor. This thing you will see later. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, here's a question. How can we use pride and illusion for to be doubtful into devotional service? Pride. We can be proud that we are servants of Krishna and Krishna's devotees. And instead of being deluded by the false promises offered by Maya, we can even choose to be deluded by Krishna's true promises. So that is also possible. Any other question? When goes in the room? 1 minute. Okay.
Haribol Guruji, Dhandavad. Guruji, can you just explain that point once again? I could not clearly understand it. The difference between the 6 urges mentioned in the first verse and Atyahara in the second verse. Can you just re-explain that briefly? What is the difference?
See, essentially, in devotional service, we need to accept 6 activities and give up 6 activities. Nectar of instruction 3 and 2.
Yes.
That is the essential feature of devotional service itself. These are the regular duties of devotional service. Technically, they are called nitya, regular duties. But then, sometimes there are circumstances which require us to accept circumstantial duties. This is there in the Vedic system. We have duties which we are expected to follow on a daily basis. But there are also duties to be carried out on particular circumstances.
That is Naimittika?
Naimittika. Nitya and Naimittika. So the Nitya duty, for instance, in Bhakti, we have, for instance, every day we attend Mangalarati. We have to chant a fixed number of holy names of Krishna and so on. It's a daily duty. These are regular duties. Nitya, daily duties. Then there are circumstantial duties. If a Vaishnava sannyasi comes to your room, you must offer obeisances. It's a circumstantial duty. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his point is, the second and third verses of Upadeshamrita, they are spelling out the regular duties of bhakti. But what about the first verse? The first verse sets out the circumstantial duty, because I may be carrying out my activities, but I may develop the urge to unnecessarily speak. So then it should be curbed in a particular manner. My mind may get attracted to something, manovega, or it may be repelled by something, and I may develop anger. What should I do? In that circumstance, what to be done is already stated. We should always think of Krishna and so on, or we should direct the anger towards those who are unfavorable to Krishna. Similarly, when the tongue, belly, genitals become agitated, then what to do? Then the first verse, all of those have to be done. Therefore, there is no duplication. There's no redundancy. The first verse applies for circumstances. Second and third verses are standard rules and regulations.
One thing is that if we follow 2 and 3 regularly, daily, as you said, Nitya, will the urges in one not come down by following 2 and 3 strictly and regularly?
Correct. But while we are progressing, these urges are there. They may lose their force, but they are there, and we should not succumb to them. That is the point.
So that means these urges will remain till you come to a particular level of bhakti. Beyond that, hopefully they'll not.
No, beyond that, it goes away. There is a misconception that Prabhupada has stated elsewhere that these are all part of the body, and as long as we have a body, these exist. So, for instance, based on this idea, there is the misconception that lust, for instance, is part of my body. And as long as I'm in my body, lust will always be there. So I do not need to think that when I progress in bhakti, lust will decrease and become zero. It may decrease, but it will always be there. Some of this idea is there. But Prabhupada has also stated that when one progresses from Shraddha to Prema in pure devotion service, one actually changes his body. So therefore, lust, anger, greed, and so on, which were present in one's former body, they are no longer there at a certain point in time because one's subtle body is actually dissolved. For instance, here, 5.1.35 Bhagavatam purport. Because of the material body, every living entity in material existence is always disturbed by Shat Guna, 6 waves: hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, invalidity, and death. Furthermore, another Shat Guna are the mind and 5 sense organs. Not to speak of a sanctified devotee, even a Chandala, an outcast who is untouchable, is immediately freed from material bondage if he utters the holy name of the Lord even once. Sometimes caste Brahmanas argue that unless one changes his body, he cannot be accepted as a Brahmana, for since the present body is obtained as a result of past actions, one who has in the past acted as a Brahmana takes birth in a Brahmin family. Therefore, they contend, without such a Brahmanical body, one cannot be accepted as a Brahmana. Herein it is said, however, that even a Vidura Vigata, Chandala, a 5th class untouchable, is freed if he utters the holy name even once. Being freed means that he immediately changes his body. Sanatana Goswami confirms, Yatha Kanchanatami Adi Kamsyam Rasavidhanataha Tatha Diksha Vidhanena Dvijatvam Jayate Nana. When a person, even though a Chandala, is initiated by a pure devotee into chanting the holy name of the Lord, his body changes as he follows the instructions of the spiritual master. Although one cannot see how his body has changed, we must accept on the grounds of the authoritative statements of the Shastra that he changes his body. This is to be understood without argument. This verse clearly says, Sat Jahati Bandham. He gives up his material bondage. The body is a symbolic representation of material bondage according to one's karma. Although sometimes we cannot see the gross body changing, chanting the holy name of the Lord immediately changes the subtle body, and because the subtle body changes, the living entity is immediately freed from material bondage. After all, changes of the gross body are conducted by the subtle body. After the destruction of the gross body, the subtle body takes the living entity from its present gross body to another. In the subtle body, the mind is predominant, and therefore, if one's mind is always absorbed in remembering the activities or the lotus feet of the Lord, he is to be understood to have already changed his present body and become purified. Therefore, it is irrefutable that a Chandala or any fallen or low-born person can become a Brahmana simply by the process, by the method of bona fide initiation. Then 3.33.6. Yan namathe shravanam kirtanat yat prahvanat yat smaranadapi pachit shvadopi sadhya savanaya kalpate kutah punaste bhagavan darshana. To say nothing of the spiritual advancement of persons who see the Supreme Person face to face. Even a person born in a family of dog eaters immediately becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. If he once utters the whole name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or chants about him, hears about his pastimes, offers him obeisances, or even remembers him, herein the spiritual potency of chanting, hearing or remembering the holy name of the Supreme Lord is greatly stressed. Rupa Goswami has discussed the sequence of sinful activities of the conditioned soul, and he has established in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that those who engage in devotional service become freed from the reactions of all sinful activities. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. The Lord says that he takes charge of one who surrenders unto him, and he makes him immune to all reactions to sinful activities. If by chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead one becomes so swiftly cleared of all reactions to sinful activities, then what is to be said of those persons who see him face to face? Another consideration here is that persons who are purified by the process of chanting and hearing become immediately eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. Generally, only a person who is born in a family of Brahmanas, who has been reformed by the 10 kinds of purificatory processes, and who is learned in Vedic literature is allowed to perform the Vedic sacrifices. But here the word sadhyaha immediately is used. And Sridhar Swami also remarks that one can immediately become eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. A person born in a family of the low caste, which is accustomed to eat dogs, is so positioned due to his past sinful activities. But by chanting or hearing once in pureness or in an offenseless manner, he is immediately relieved of the sinful reaction. Not only is he relieved of the sinful reaction, but he immediately achieves the result of all purificatory processes. Taking birth in the family of a Brahmana is certainly due to pious activities in one's past life. But still a child who is born in a family of a Brahmana depends for his further reformation upon initiation into acceptance of a sacred thread and many other reformatory processes. But a person who chants the holy name of the Lord, even if born in a family of Chandalas, dog eaters, does not need reformation. Simply by chanting Hare Krishna, he immediately becomes purified and becomes as good as the most learned Brahmana. Sridhar Swami especially remarks in this connection, Anena Puchyatvam Lakshyate. Some caste Brahmanas remark that by chanting Hare Krishna, purification begins. Of course, that depends on the individual process of chanting. But this remark of Sridhar Swami is completely applicable if one chants the holy name of the Lord without offense, or he immediately becomes more than a Brahmana. As Sridhar Swami says, Pujyatvam, he immediately becomes as respectable as the most learned Brahmana and can be allowed to perform Vedic sacrifices. If simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord one becomes sanctified instantly, then what can be said of those persons who see the Supreme Lord face to face and who understand the descent of the Lord as Devahuti understands Kapila Devi? It is sometimes remarked that by the chanting process one begins to purify himself and can take birth in his next life in a Brahmin family and then be reformed. But at this present moment, even though, when one is accepted as a Brahmana in the sacred thread ceremony under the Pancharatrika system, then he is Dvija, twice born. By the process of initiation by the spiritual master, a person is accepted as a Brahmana in his purified state of chanting the holy name of the Lord. Devahuti makes another statement. Oh, how glorious are they whose tongues are chanting your holy name. Even if born in the families of dog eaters, such persons are worshipable. One should not disbelieve or think, how by chanting the holy name of the Lord can one become a holy man to be compared to the most elevated Brahmana? It's not very astounding. For no one in this life can chant the holy name of the Lord unless he has passed all lower stages, such as performing the Vedic ritualistic sacrifices, studying the Vedas and practicing good behavior like that of the Aryans. All this must first have been done just as a student in a law class is to be understood to have already graduated from general education. Anyone who is engaged in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, must have already passed all lower stages. The holy name has to be chanted to please the Supreme Lord and not for any sense gratification or professional purpose. If this pure mentality is there, then even though a person is born of a low family, such as a dog eater, he is so glorious that not only has he purified himself, but is quite competent to deliver others. So this, he actually changes his body, informed by the personality of God that he will be awarded a transcendental body befitting the Lord's association. Narada got a spiritual body as soon as he quit his material body. Dhruva, okay, here. The influence of transcendental devotion service is like that. Therefore, change of the body means stoppage of the action of the three qualitative modes of material nature upon the pure devotee. There are many instances of this in the revealed scriptures. Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj and many other devotees were able to see the personality of God face to face, apparently in the same body. This means that the quality of a devotee's body changes from material to transcendence. There's also a very distinct statement here, third canto. Naretyashu Yakosham Nigirnam Analo Yatha. Bhakti devotion service dissolves the subtle body of the living entity without separate effort, just as fire in the stomach digests all that we eat.
Prabhuji, one question here. Even though I believe that all this is correct and true, and even though I'm practicing my sadhanas sincerely, but still don't
but
get
whether it is sincere or not, we cannot decide now. We have to go by the effect. If the effect is not there, it's not sincere enough. So Krishna generally remarks this in where does he say, Madhurya Gadapini. He says that has to be understood by effect. One should, in fact, he says one should not argue that I'm doing all these things, why it is not happening. He's saying, no, you are not doing it correctly. You are not doing it correctly. Don't imagine you are doing it correctly, because if you did it correctly, the effect would come. So the very fact that the effect is not coming is proof that you are not doing it correctly.
How to understand that we are becoming free from sin and
this first of all, the 6 urges will reduce. First of all, the 6 urges will reduce. Now, this is not some magic. When you eat, your hunger reduces and we can perceive it. When our hunger increases or decreases, we can perceive it. When our thirst increases or decreases, we can perceive it. It's a sensation. Similarly, lust, anger, greed, these are all sensations. When these sensations increase or decrease, we can perceive it. Prabhupada says, no, you don't need a certificate from some third party to know whether you are progressing in Krishna consciousness or not.
Can we say that the first verse is a yardstick to check how well we are doing verses 2 and 3?
You can take it like that. You can take the first 3 verses itself as a yardstick together, if need be, because that is actually proof of Vishuddha Shraddha, pure Shraddha. Pure Shraddha means that we uninterruptedly carry out the first 3 injunctions of Rupa Goswami. We may be engaged in Bhajana Kriya, but our Shraddha is not pure and our Sadhu Sangha is not pure. But before we settle the problem of pure Sadhu Sangha, first of all, you have to come to the point of pure Bhajana, pure Shraddha. As we progress, then the Chaitya Guru, Krishna from the heart, he helps us come to the next level of purity, one by one by one.
So, Shraddha is not pure. Does it mean that we are not clear about Sambandha Gyan, or how to understand why this?
It means we are not fully surrendered to Krishna. Sharanagati is the external manifestation of Shraddha. And the Sharanagati that we speak of is absolute Sharanagati. Not just, it is absolute. Fully surrendered to Krishna with our body, mind, words, intelligence, everything. I think a lot of us have a problem of overestimating our emotional position and of imagining that the last minute before I die, some magic will happen. And then life after life, we go on imagining this magic will happen. It makes no sense. I'm averse to Krishna, which is the reason why I'm filled with all kinds of strange sensations. Last time that read are very strange from the spiritual point of view. What am I supposed to do if I'm thrown and put in Goloka Vrindavan also? It means nothing. I'll be an odd man out, an idiot, filled with all kinds of attitudes. What is that? Everybody is absorbed in Krishna, in trying to make Krishna happy. You can see in Brihad Bhagavatamrita how they are. And then we alone, one or two, we are thinking about, but what about me? Just come on. Don't belong to that place. So we have to become qualified to belong to that place. It makes no sense to even be put there. What does it mean? Or to be in Vaikuntha while we have material hankering. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? Then why? You're just an odd man out. Why you need to be there in the first place? What are you going to do there? You cheese sabji? We need to, with maturity, understand what is required and work on what is required. Krishna is providing all help. Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, they are providing all help. Not accepting, and we go on claiming that we are accepting. That's a vulgar proverb that if you pass gas, you may pretend nobody is detecting it. And if you go below water, in a water body like a lake, and you pass gas, and the bubbles come up and they show that you pass gas. So how long I can hide my anarthas, pretend to be something that I'm not? You have to understand this is the reality. You have to understand where we are. The reality. First of all, you have to come in touch with the reality before you progress towards the supreme reality of Krishna Prema. Pure Krishna consciousness. I go to a doctor and I don't even tell the problems that I have. There's a possibility of getting cured. So similarly, I go to Krishna. He is willing to cure us fully. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to cure us. Inichi Aushadhi Maya Lagi Vara Nashi Harina Mahamantra Lao Tumima. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come as a doctor. And in front of him, I just, I say, I'm fine. You're fine, okay, just be fine. Life after life, be fine. Stuck in Bhakti, Mukti, all these endeavors, be fine. That's all. Because you need to beg. Lao Tumi Magi. You need to beg for spiritual progress. You don't beg, you don't get. You don't beg, you don't get. That's all. It's a simple thing. What you beg for, you get. What you don't beg for, you don't get. For anything superior. So that is why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us to beg. That's why we recite Shikshashtakam every day. So that we get used to this. We get used to begging Krishna. Please qualify me. I'm very sorry that I have no attraction to the chanting of your holy name. Please forgive me. Please make me qualified to engage in uninterrupted devotion service to your lotus feet. We're trained. We're trained with the hope that at some point we will automatically, when we come before the deity, automatically we will offer the same prayer without any duplicity, at least in front of Krishna. Even if we are duplicitous towards everyone else and diplomatic towards everyone else, we can't be duplicitous and diplomatic to Krishna himself. And where is the hope? Krishna is willing to help, wants to help. We are the ones who are preventing him from helping. We just agree to be helped. Like there's so many small babies, human babies. They don't want to eat. They close their mouth. And then mommy is trying to feed, and we are like that. Don't want to accept Krishna consciousness, we are suffering. And then Radha Madhava are trying to figure out what they can do to help us exist in our original position as their servants. No, that question does not arise that I'm engaged in sincere devotional service and I make no spiritual progress. It's an oxymoron. It doesn't work, doesn't exist. The very fact that the effect is not there itself is proof that it's not sufficiently sincere by Krishna's consideration. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur himself was asked. He was asked that there are so many devotees in your mutt. They don't seem to be making spiritual progress. We have observed them for 10 years, 15 years. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, yes, just like when there are worms in the intestines, you eat food, the food is actually being consumed by the worms. So the body doesn't get any nourishment. So he said they have forbidden desires or they're engaged in forbidden activities, either openly or secretly. And therefore, their chanting, their devotion service, all these things, it simply goes away. That's it. They're not getting any benefit out of it. In India, this is a serious matter because the non-devotee relatives, friends, they're all observing us and they're watching. And no matter how much you attend Mangalarati, how much you chant and all, they're not bothered. They're bothered because they know our character from the past. They know our defects, moral defects. They want to see whether these moral defects have spontaneously disappeared or not. Only then they will accept that we are progressing in Krishna consciousness. So if you go to them and tell them, I wake up at 4:30, this and that, so what? You may wake up at 4:30, whatever, but has your lust, anger, greed, all these things gone? Have you become a moral person? Are you speaking the truth nowadays? This is what they want to learn. Because they have detected that God is most pure, God is most moral. And when you come in contact with Him, you will also become moral. You will also become pure. This is correct. This is correct. Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam Bhava. Pure. So we cannot have even an attraction for activities which have been forbidden in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. The very fact that we are indicates that we are engaging in some tamasic form of Bhakti Yoga or maybe some rajasic form of Bhakti Yoga. That is why these things are happening. So all of this requires a lot of internal scrutiny. That requires basic courage. Courage to see reality. Reality about ourselves. Anyway, Krishna is there. We don't need to be terrified of that Krishna is going to what? He's going to eat us up or what? He's not going to eat us up. Nothing is going to do. He's just going to help us overcome these obstacles. He wants to. He's the only one who actually loves us. Who will stay with us, no matter, even if you're perpetually averse? Who is going to stay except Krishna? He is inside us, next to us, always around us, above us, outside us. Every man of Krishna has come. Krishna loves us to an extent that we cannot even imagine. It's our duty to reciprocate by, first of all, obeying His instruction. That's the first point. Just obey. Just all obey. Obey Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Obey whatever he says. This. You can read in teachings of Lord Chaitanya what the Lord's instructions are. Obey, carry out. And then we will definitely, very soon we'll understand. It's almost instantaneous we understand the extent to which one can perceive the effect of devotion service, the way it is meant to be carried out. When we carry it out, the way it is meant to be carried out, the effect is almost instantaneous. It doesn't take so much time to understand that this is the effect of bhakti rendered properly. I thought someone else asked a question. All right. Any further questions we can discuss on Telegram?